Hey everybody, this is Steve with Far Too Loud AVDJ. Today we are going to be putting together a little conversion box to go from a 15 amp straight prong plug to a 20 amp receptacle or plug. And that's basically the same thing as a 15 amp standard Edison plug, except one of the prongs is sideways. The reason I'm doing this is because recently on one of the bigger gigs I just did, I was using some Crown 3600s which have 20 amp plugs on them, and while I was plugging it into a 20 amp receptacle and circuit, I had to use a 12 gauge extension cable because I had to bring it from a circuit on the other side of the room, and of course it does not have the right type of plug on it, so I figured I'd go ahead and get a few parts and make a quick conversion box. So some tools you'll need for this project are wire strippers, wire cutters, and a Phillips head screwdriver. And some parts you'll need for this project are a box. You can do single gang or double gang. I'm doing a double gang box, and also doing an outdoor box. It just looks nicer, a little bit sleeker, and a little bit more weatherproof, so I can use it outside as well. And you'll also need a 20 amp receptacle. As you can see, as I said, it's got the sideways prong here, and that's what we're converting to, and I've got 2 of those, so I'm going to have 4 plugs total. You'll need a connector to go from the box to your wire, and I've got actually a watertight connector here that just screws right into the box. We'll get to that in a second. A plug, and again a little bit more watertight, but pretty general. A cover. Again, I went with an outdoor cover. It makes it look nicer, makes it a little bit more usable outdoors and in different applications. Again, you could just use a regular faceplate. It'd be a lot cheaper. And again, you can just use a regular indoor metal electrical box as well. They're just not watertight, but this will make this box watertight. And of course, it's a 12 gauge wire, and this is 12-3 service wire. And as you can see, it's very well insulated, it's much more flexible, and it's braided. Alright, so let's get started. Alright, so I've already opened everything, so let's take a look at some of the little parts that comes in these packages. So for this outdoor box, you can see we have 3 holes. You have one on top, one on bottom, and one in the back. This thing comes with some screw-on caps, so that way for any holes that you're not using, you can keep it pretty sealed. This is the faceplate that's going on here. So as you can see, it has a seal here. I don't know if you can see, but it's also perforated. So depending on what you're going to do, what you're going to use for it, it's got some, I don't know if you can see it here, but it's got some round cutouts, it's got a light switch cutout, receptacle cutouts, as well as just complete decor cutout. So depending on what you want to do and what you're going to use it for, that's what you can do with that. We have screws here to put these pieces together, and what these are you have Decora, I guess you can call them trim rings, or regular round trim rings for just like if you're doing a 220 plug, or what we're going to be using is the electrical plate, which is already in there. And of course, the receptacles are just the receptacles. As you can see, you've got your screws here for your wiring, or you can do it in the back as well, I do believe. Your plug, we'll open that up in a second. Same thing, it's just got some screws in there for your wiring. And then this. Alright, so first things first, let's get these caps here. I've already opened the bag because I'm doing this one-handed. So we've got, let's see, I'm just going to take one. And you can do this with a coin or a flathead screwdriver as well, which you may have to go get. There we go. just right there. Or you can't. So you can use these little things here. Yep. Get this thing out to help with the process. Alright. So I'll go ahead and admit, as you notice, the holes are a little smaller. I actually grabbed the wrong box. I had one with 3/4 inch holes that I used for another project, and this one's supposed to be 1/2 inch. So process is the same. Put the things in there. All right, so now we have the fitting that will fit in this box, and you just take it and screw it just like you did the caps, just like that. So there is something I notice about this here. I don't think this big old wire is going to fit in that little slot, but I do know it will fit, and the fitting is just the right size. So I think what I'm going to do, I'll have to kind of modify this little rubber cork, if you will. I'm just going to go get a drill and drill bit, drill it out a little bit, just to, if not just under the sides of this cable, to still make sure it's a snug fit. So I'm going to go do that. Alright, so as you can see, I went ahead and cored that out. Just took a drill bit about the size of that wire and just kind of rounded it out a little bit. But it's still going to be very, very snug, which is what we want, because we want it watertight. And by the time I tighten the nut on it, it will be completely sealed. But to save me some effort, I'm going to go ahead and strip back about 6 inches of this insulation, because once it's in the box, I don't need the insulation on it anymore. And alright, so I've got that stripped up. So now I'm going to take that little cork and I'm going to slip it on there. And again, so there'll still be some insulation inside there. So I'm going to go and do that. Alright, so now I got that on there. So we're going to take, let me set this up. So we're going to take our wires and just go right in there. Alright, and then push that in there to where it's snug as I can get it. Alright, then take your nut and just tighten that down, and that'll force it in there even more, as well as close in this end right here. It compresses it, it keeps it watertight. So next thing we need to do is I'm going to take about 6 inches off this other end of the wire and cut it completely off, because I need some jumper wire to go between one receptacle to the next to link them. So I'm going to do that, take the insulation off so I have just the bare wires here. Alright, so now let's look at wiring this thing. So electrical wiring is pretty basic, really. So if you look at a receptacle, even if it's just a 15 amp receptacle, you have a longer prong and a shorter prong in these slots here. The shorter prong is always your hot, which is the black wire, and it'll go on this side, which are usually copper or brass screws. And then this side is your neutral or white wire, and that'll go on this side. Now you can actually run 220 to this single receptacle and make this two different circuits as well. But I have no need to do that right now. If I ever have to break down 220 to 110, then I'll probably just use a breakout box. And then of course you have your ground screw here as well, which is your bare copper wire or green wire. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to jump my hot wire. So here's what I'm going to do. So these are going to sit in here like so. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do hot to this side, my neutral on this side, and then I will link neutral and hot to between the two. And then of course ground will just go parallel. Alright, so now we got these wired, so let me show you kind of what I did here. So we have our hot coming in from our wire, from our cable. It's going in here. Then we have a hot jumper coming from this bottom here, and notice this tab is connecting both of them so they're bridged. And then coming into this guy, and then the neutral is doing the same thing. Our white wire is coming in from our cable on this one and then linking from here to the next one. Yeah, the grounds was a little more difficult. I ended up having to use a wire nut and another little jumper wire because I could not fit two 12 gauge braided wires onto this one screw. So I made a leg for both of them, so one going from here, one going from here, and then connected it to the one coming from the cable using this wire nut. Alright, so now that we got all that wired up, we are going to set our seal, and so I gotta find the little holes for the receptacles, which there's one there. I'm trying to do it very carefully. There you go, there's one. Oh, see, that's what I'm trying not to do. Separate the other little pieces. Alright, so we got those punched out, and the only other thing I need to punch out are the little screw holes. So I'm actually going to use all 6 of these, and I'll show you why. I'm actually going to put the seal down on this thing first, and then I'm going to attach the receptacles using this middle screw here to the plate, and then put the plate onto these 4 screws. It's more secure that way. So what I've done is the little screws that were in the holes on these little receptacles, I'm actually took them out and going to use them to secure the plate to the whole thing. Alright, so now we've got those screwed into the plate. Now we're going to simply make sure our wire nut's not going to hold up anything. Just put our plate right onto the box. And then as you see, there are holes in the top that you don't have to lift the lid for. So we're going to put those 2 screws in first, and then open them up and put the bottom 2 screws in. Alright, so we got the box all mounted up and screwed and sealed. Looks pretty nice. So the last thing we have to do, we got to strip back some of this wire and put our plug on. So I'm going to strip back the wire and open this plug up, and then I'll show you what it's like inside. Alright, so I got the wire strips, don't need to strip those ends, but got the housing already kind of pushed in there and got this thing open. And as it turns out, this is actually a whole lot easier than the ones I usually work with. This is actually like the receptacles in the box, where you just loosen these screws and then push the wire in and tighten them down. So there's no looping the wire around screws or anything like that. So I'm going to get this wired up and then get it closed in. Pretty self-explanatory, and then we'll have a completed box. Alright, so there it is, all closed in and wired up and ready to go. It was a pretty simplistic build. And just remember again, when you're wiring this thing, I'm sorry I didn't show it, but you know, match the wiring here. So like I said before, the short prong is black or hot. The wide one is your neutral or white, and this is of course is your ground. So just mirror that, even if it doesn't have a short or wide prong, you know, just envision you plugging it in. So this is your hot, this is your neutral, and of course this is your ground. So make sure you're wiring that respectively. So that's it. It was a pretty simple build, and this has very many applications here. So of course, going from the 15 amp standard Edison plug, so I can plug this into a 12 gauge extension cable or anything, and then come out to a 20 amp receptacle. So if I have anything with 20 amp plugs like the amplifiers I had mentioned before, then even though I'm running it off of a extension cable, I can still run that, plug in those 20 amp plugs. And I can still use this as just a general power box. So regardless of it having 20 amp plugs or not. You know, if I want to do speakers out of it, I can do powered speakers, or just standard amplifiers. I can do up to 4, plug in up to 4 things, you know, so I can come out of the wall with this, use it, you know, similar to a power strip, but much more heavy duty. That can withstand up to 20 amp of draw, or I can plug this into a extension cable and use it as a breakout box. So this will definitely get lots of use. Alright, so that'll do it for this project in this video. I'm sure as I do more projects, I'll do more videos. As a matter of fact, one of the next videos I plan on doing, that I've mentioned several times before, is doing a how to clean and maintain your analog boards, mixers, and consoles. That's again another pretty simple procedure, but time consuming, but I'll show you how to do it properly, because I do need to actually do both of mine and keep them clean. So that's it for now. Until next time.